We're doing the Medium's book, Part 2, Chapter 10 is now about the nature of spirit communications, goes into sort of discernment of spirit based on the type of how they're coming across or communicating, coarse, frivolous, serious, and instructive communications. And more what's expected of a more elevated spirit, especially within a spiritismo. However, recently I had a conversation and I've been posting about what we consider lower level spirits or materialization versus the spiritual or the philosophy of a spiritismo, and how that's not necessarily irreconcilable. And I've criticized, Kardec before for, his Christian bias or European bias or cultural bias, and how we cannot necessarily, because we practice cruzado, we're not classic spiritualists. And some of these manifestations, they would classify it as a lower level based on their sort of bias towards how they believe an educated or an intelligent or a very spiritual person or spirit should act. So it just recaps that the action that's observed uh, is by an intelligent cause. If a movement of a table answers our thoughts, gives proof of intention, is regarded as an intelligent manifestation. And it's not just something intelligent moving it, but something intelligent doing a communication, trying to get across a message. So we know it's not just somebody or spirit moving the table, but that they're using the table to communicate something. They touched on this in the Spirits book regarding morality. There's diversity of spirits, just like humans or people, and um, the spectrum of communication is on either their elevation, their grade of elevation, basically, the quality of their ideas, their degree of knowledge base, or their ignorance, their virtues or vices are evidenced by communications which emanate from them. And it says those of the most savage or the most enlightened European. So you understand what I was saying earlier. I believe we kind of have to practice a spiritismo and how the spirits communicate um, when we're doing a spiritismo, and then when we're doing other traditions. They should be judged by those traditions' standard. Um, According to their most salient characteristics, they are designated as coarse, which we would say is being unrefined or not as classy or educated. Frivolous, which is silly, which is just doing a spirit manifestation for no reason or just for their own entertainment, which is usually a lower end spirit. Serious, which would be a higher end spirit because it has a purpose, a spiritual purpose. And instructive. So that's to teach us. Coarse. Coarse communications are those which shock us. They can be from a spirit at a very low stage of development, still saying soiled with the impurities of materiality. Least delicacy being trivial, obscene, insolent, arrogant, malevolent, or impious. Frivolous communications are from spirits who are frivolous, mischievous, and tricksy rather than wicked, who attach no importance to what they say. They take pleasure in futile talk and amuse, likewise, mediums who are in that same vein. However, sometimes they are clever with insults or sallies thrown in and take every opportunity to mix himself up with communications of other spirits or to mess around. Having no respect for truth, they take a mischievous pleasure in hoaxing those who have weakness or presumption to believe them. They amuse themselves with such communications to give access to foolish or deceptive spirits. At the same time, this will repel serious ones who, like serious men, avoid the society or the company of the unreasoning people and the giddy. Serious. Serious communications are by the gravity of the subjects of which they entreat and by the seriousness of their tone. Um, but may not be exempt from error. So they may be serious but biased. Serious spirits are not all equally enlightened. There are some things of which they may be ignorant or concerning which they may be mistaken. For this reason, spirits who are really superior constantly advise us to submit all communications to this test of examination and reason. So we must distinguish between communications that are seriously true or that are seriously false. Because it's not always easy, because spirits are often in the guise of seriousness. That presumptuous or superficial spirits seek to foist upon their dogma, their erroneous ideas or absurd theories upon us, and often may name drop in order to impose on us. Um, and then it's saying we will point out later ways to guard ourselves against false communications. Instructive communications are not only serious, but also convey teachings of superior spirits on points of science, morality, philosophy, etc. They are more or less profound in proportion to their elevation and dematerialization of communicating spirits. In order to benefit from these, you must follow up with regularity and perseverance, because serious spirits attach themselves to those who desire instruction and will assist them, but only see who those who only see a passing amusement are left to the companionship of spirits as frivolous as them and self. So spirit communications must be regular and our efforts frequent. So we will appreciate those spirits' efforts and their moral and intellectual work or worth reflecting in ourself. The true estimate of men or a true estimate of a spirit. For a spirit to be instructive, they are generally true, although what is not true cannot be instructive. It's not necessarily a high flown and pretentious style, which is a presumptive spirit, but um, spirits, being unable to disguise their shallowness, are incapable of keeping up false assumptions for any length of time. They will soon betray their weakness or the weakness in their logic, etc., if we continue to converse with them and to ply them with questions which compel them to show their incompetency. So they can only, asking them certain questions or certain things that they should have knowledge of or that we have knowledge of. There's certain ways to test the spirits, and they can only have sort of a false facade or hold up false pretenses or pretend for so long. The means of communicating with spirits are numerous and varied. Spirits act on our organs and our senses. They can manifest themselves to the sight, by touch, by impressions, seen or unseen, on our body, by hearings, by sounds, by smell. Um, uh, a regular and consecutive exchange of ideas. The ways of doing this are: one, interpreting raps and tilting, so like the table tilting, knocking on the ground to make a knock, or knockings on the walls. So you say like one knock is an A, two knocks is a B, etc. Two, speech, to evaluate speech patterns, if someone's yelling, someone's whispering, etc. And 3, writing. So like if someone's scribbling versus printing childlike versus using um, like their penmanship. We'll examine each of these in a special chapter. And the next chapter is looking at raps and tiltings, knockings, alphabetical typology.